Very sorry about that, guys. So I had to redo the live all over again because basically it just somehow like auto stopped. I don't know what the hell just happened, but we are back on because I, like I said, there's too much going on with this team, man. Like the whole breadman situation, and now teams are playing low ball and trying to get Panarin for a lower price. It's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. But we'll see what happens because, like I said, if Artemi Panarin does not walk and he somehow gets traded, then Chris Drury will still have a job. But if Artemi Panarin walks with no trades happening, you acquiring no assets, and you let him walk free agency, Chris Drury definitely does not have a job. No, there's absolutely no way. It'd be diabolical work to actually like he'll still have a job. At that point, James Dolan definitely does not care about this team. Like no question. Like he'd be a team owner that truly does not care about the New York Rangers. If your GM couldn't trade Artemi Panarin away and he lets him walk free agency. So in case anybody wasn't here earlier, I was pretty much breaking down the speculation on teams having, a low ball situation with Chris Drury. They're not trying to give Artemi Panarin the whole 50 million, and they're basically trying to go lower, like 30 to 40 million for the extension. So that's what's pretty much going on, and all the speculation that teams are being iffy about landing him and things of that nature. But for all we know, this could be a chess move on Chris Drury as well. He's probably letting them do whatever they got to do, and for all we know, he's probably still gonna make a move happen. We don't know that yet, but we still got to see what happens. Cause like I said, guys, I rather Artemi Panarin walk free agency because then like he has no choice but to fire Chris Drury because you failed at the deadline and you couldn't even get anything out of your best player. So you want this to happen, as I said. So it's gonna be interesting what happens in this roster freeze because I believe they got till Wednesday to make something happen before the Olympics. So we'll see what happens before the Olympics. If Chris Drury wants to make something happen, he's hopefully gonna make it happen by today or tomorrow. Like you have to do it like ASAP because there's all this volcanic bullshit in the air now, and now like everybody's being all petrified and worried like, oh great, we're not gonna gain anything for Artemi Panarin. But guys who want to see Chris Drury fired are like, oh, please stay a Ranger, because this is going to get Chris Drury fired. It 100% will. And the crazy part is Barry Trotz has stepped down as the Nashville Predators GM. Hopefully everything's okay with him because nobody's too sure exactly what happened. I feel like probably a personal matter happened and he had to step down and probably let somebody else take over. But right now for Chris Drury, he's definitely in a hot seat because now if you don't move Artemi Panarin or Vincent Trocheck and they both remain a Ranger, you got to lose your job. You got to. There's no way in hell like he still remains a Rangers GM unless James Dolan likes to keep losing and still keep believing that this crap that Chris Drury keeps dishing out is a winning culture. Like I said, guys, from that day on, I stopped taking James Dolan seriously. The day he told WFAN that Chris Drury's a winner. What has he won? That's all I want to know. The only thing I know about Chris Drury is he won like a Little League World Series or some bullshit. That's it. That's all I know about Chris Drury. Other than that, he has not won no trophies or championships in hockey. Not even with the Rangers. So it's like How is Chris Drury a winner if all he has on his resume is a little league trophy? How's that a winner? There's guys that work for the NHL teams and they got way more Stanley Cups. I mean, once you have one Stanley Cup, you already got way more than Chris Drury right off the back. So this is why I laugh at James Dolan. This man truly thinks a guy who wins a little league trophy is gonna win you a Stanley Cup. Yet he wasn't even the best player for the New York Rangers. Like he didn't even last long in hockey because his knee wore out. So it's like that's your GM. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's very interesting that teams are like trying to get a way lower price, probably going 20 mil for Panarin. But I know his agent's not gonna let that happen. His agent's not gonna let him get like paid that low. If anything, like I said, if nothing happens, his agent's gonna just tell him play the rest of the season, and then we're just gonna go from there. And like I said, as much as I want to see moves happen, this is what I want to exactly happen because it will get Chris Drury out of the New York Rangers. So as crazy as it sounds, ladies and gentlemen, and I know you guys hate hearing that, but that's what we need to happen. We definitely need Chris Drury to mess up so badly that his job's not safe anymore. That's the only way things get better. But even then, James Dolan has to clean the whole entire house still. Firing the GM won't be enough. You still got so much of a big mess in Hartford that I still cannot fathom why James Dolan did not start firing the whole entire developmental staff from Hartford. They all suck. They all made and here's the craziest part. Chris Drury literally burnt. We used to have the top 3 farming system, ladies and gentlemen. At one point, we had a really, really good farming system. And guess who burnt it to the ground? Chris fucking Drury. Isn't that ironic that we once upon a time had a really good developmental staff and team, and all it took was one GM to replace all the other guys and bring in his stupid ass entourage, and all of a sudden it's become the biggest shit show. You can't even call it a farm anymore. Like it's not a farming system. It's just a hellhole for younger guys. You know it's bad when Ranger fans see that players have the chance to get drafted by this team and they tell them, no, just stay in college because this team will not turn you into an NHLer. That's how sad it is that younger guys can't even develop here because the system down there is so bad and so backwards that look at all the players we have right now. Tell me who you feel out of Hartford has been like an impactful player. And then when you got guys that think Matt Rempe's a good fucking player, that's when you know this team is just an absolute fucking joke. Because Chris Drury really thinks a guy like Matt Rempe, who just has size and can't even fight ever since he has a thumb injury, is a good player. Like the man barely scores any goals. He barely does anything. He just brings energy, and somehow that's generational for Chris Drury. And that's why I don't blame anybody that feels like they can't trust Chris Drury with anything. I don't blame you one bit because he is still allowing the locker room to be toxic. Still. And that's why New York Rangers aren't going anywhere for a while. They can bring in all the players they want, right? Nothing's going to change until the personnel's gone and the locker room somehow is completely cleaned up and it's no longer a toxic locker room. Now, is JT Miller the guy that probably is making the locker room toxic? I'm not too well. You could probably put him on that category But there's probably a couple of guys in that locker room that are making it very like cancerous to even play there. I mean, look how they play. They don't care. You guys see how they move. They are literally just collecting paychecks. And Artemi Panarin, for all we know, he probably is gonna like stay around and be like, you know what? I don't like Chris because they don't see eye to eye. They don't like each other. So surprisingly, that Chris Drury was even able to approach him and ask him if he's willing to get traded is a shocker to me. But for all we know, that could be what Artemi Panarin does. Gets Chris Drury fired, and then he somehow signs back with the Rangers. Like it could be a possibility, man. It truly could. Because like I said, the fact that nothing's happened yet and we're literally 3 days away from the roster freeze, and then we have the long break for the Olympics, and nothing has been happening yet. We just been seeing Elliot Friedman reports and speculations from insiders, and that's it. The only thing we've had happen was that Vincent Loriol claim from the waivers, and that's about it. Nothing blockbuster from there. But we don't even know if Braden Schneider is still getting moved because they're saying that teams want him, but it's like why haven't nobody even bothered trying to like trade him right now? Like what is Chris Drury doing? But here's the other thing: Chris Drury thinks like Braden Schneider's like fucking a franchise spectacular defenseman. That's the other problem too. This is why you can't trust Chris Drury with nothing, absolutely nothing, because he thinks guys like Schneider are generational still. And you see how he's going about it. If teams are interested, he's trying to like hold on to him. Like, no, I don't want to trade my guy. I love him. Like that's Chris Drury for you. So if I hear anything, I will let you guys know what happens. But as of right now, like that's pretty much what's been going on. Teams are basically, playing low ball, not trying to give Panarin the contract he wants. And like I said, there is a huge chance he might not get traded. And if he doesn't get traded, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment you got to get your popcorn ready. Absolutely, because there's no way Dolan will be happy that Chris Drury did not trade Artemi Panarin and watched him walk and gained absolutely nothing, and then your team is even more disastrous than it already is. So, like I said, Ranger fans, just get your popcorn ready soon because if Artemi Panarin does not get traded anywhere and he plays the rest of the season as a Ranger, walks free agency, that boy Drury is definitely going to be in the hot seat. No question about it. There's no way he remains a Ranger GM. He will. It's going to be the funniest shit ever, though, because it's going to show that Chris Drury is not a good GM. That, like I said, as much as I want these moves to happen, I want this to happen because if this happens and Chris Drury's fired, get your champagne ready because I got champagne saved for the moment I hear those words. Chris Drury no longer works for the New York Rangers because if Chris, like I said, guys, if Breadman does not get traded, get ready because this is gonna be where Chris Drury gets fired. And that's why I said don't buy into that retool letter because look what's happening. Look at the look what he's done ever since the You know why he did that letter? He did not do that for the fans. You know why he did that bullshit? Because he was trying to avoid the fire Drury chance to continue. And then ironically, the minute he puts the retool letter out, the fire Drury chance went away. Yet they should still be happening. But you guys know how I feel. You shouldn't even be giving James Dolan money. because every time you keep giving James Dolan money, sitting your bun in the garden, he won. It does not matter if they lose 20, 30 home games in a row. Guess who still won that night? James Dolan. Why? Because you paid for that ticket. You put your money in his pocket, and he is gonna go home happy. So that's the only way you can hit him where it hurts. You got to make the garden empty. Fire. You saw what happened with the fire jury chance. They did it, and then he does the rear two letter, and yet nothing's happened besides the Carson Soucy trade. And then the funniest thing, Soucy scores a goal the very first game as an Islander against the Rangers. That's that's the New York Rangers in a nutshell for you, man. So we'll see what happens. It's definitely going to be interesting because, like I said, if nothing happens by this week or March, Chris Drury will either be fired by the offseason or he might be fired mid March. If nothing happens, Chris Drury might lose his job. So, Ranger fans, let's see what happens because this is going to be a very interesting situation with Artemi Panarin and let alone Vincent Trocek. So, if Chris Drury does not move these two, like I said, guys, get your champagne ready because this might be the fuse on the wick that blows it all up, and all eyes are going to be on Chris Drury. So, Chris Drury is on a lot of pressure. Absolutely. Because, like I said, if nothing happens, you have to address the media and you're going to have to address your boss. Your boss is not going to be happy. He is not. So, I will keep you guys up to date with what happens with the whole Panarin situation. Whether he stays or goes before the roster freeze, we shall see. I will still be doing my highlights. They're gonna be uploaded right after this live. And as always, guys, we'll be here back on Thursday for the Hurricanes game. So let's see what happens. If Artemi Panarin stays, it's gonna be a unique situation for James Dolan. But if if Chris Drury wants to have his job, he better make a move happen ASAP. And he has till Wednesday. So stay tuned, y'all, as always. If I hear any more updates about the Artemi Panarin situation and the whole lowballing process is still happening with other teams, or he actually gets moved to either San Jose, Washington, or Los Angeles, because apparently there's even talk that the Florida Panthers are in the mix, but I don't know if they. I doubt they're gonna have the money for Artemi Panarin, even with Bobrovsky willing to take a smaller contract. I just don't see Florida landing a breadman like that. It's gonna be a tough task for Bill Zito, but I'm sure Bill Zito is gonna make a move happen because the Panthers are kind of still sniffing the wild card. And you guys know with the Panthers, with them, all they need to do is put themselves in a playoff spot. And from there, they just try to go on a crazy run. But we don't even know if the Panthers are going to be back in the Stanley Cup. Even with Barkov, because they're saying that Barkov might be back if they make the playoffs. But I truly don't know if you should play Sasha Barkov in that lineup with that whole knee injury that he had happened and the surgery and things like that. And that's another thing. If Chris Drury knows these guys are injured, he needs to shut them down and let them get like their recovery process going, all the surgeries, whatever the case is, and then you can make them better players. Because that's what Tampa Bay does. Tampa Bay has so many injuries, and then when guys get injured, they rather them recover, and then they come back fully healthy, and they still put up points. Isn't that ironic? I mean, Ryan McDonough was injured a lot this season, and then every time he comes back, what does he do? Produces. That's why I wish like New York could be like Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay knows how to like use their freaking AHL players and actually put them in a system when they're needed, when guys are banged up, and they still win games. They still win games. So this whole injury excuse crap, like, you know what? Look what the Lightning are doing. They're banged up, and yet they're still the best team in the NHL right now. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference, and they still did not let the injury stop them from. They even won. They won yesterday's Stadium Series, and I know you guys saw that goalie fight because I damn sure did. That Swayman and Vossi fight was absolutely ludicrous. I saw that shit live, and I was like, "Holy shit, we got a goalie fight!" That team was down 4 goals, and the minute Vossi was tilting with Swayman, the Tampa Bay Lightning started scoring 4 goals and they won in a shootout. They won in a shootout, man. So the Bruin fans can say, "Oh, the refs gave them all the calls, this, that, the third." Honestly, though, you, I could agree with the Bruins fans there saying like the refs were kind of like horrible at their job last night, but at the same time, you gotta kind of put the blame on the players because the players they get paid millions of dollars. They all they had to do was just probably score one more goal or not allow any more goals to happen, and the Bruins would have had that game because they had the game the whole night. So they situations like that, man. And like I said, guys, it's gonna be interesting what happens. So stay tuned, y'all, for this week. If I hear any more updates about Panarin moved or staying, we're definitely going to talk about it because, as I said, this is going to be very, very sticky for Chris Drury if Panarin doesn't move. So stay tuned, y'all. We will see. Will Panarin go or will Panarin stay? That's the $1 million question we got going on now with the breadman. So let's see what happens. As always, y'all, thank y'all for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. The highlights will be on the way. I just had to put this live up because this was very crazy updates and news about the whole Panarin situation, and now it's starting to make sense why things are looking like it's been on a long hold. So we'll see what happens, and let's go Rangers. Fire Drury, and good luck, Drury, because now you got a tough, sticky situation in your